So I'm doing a series at TikTok right now that's about the traits of each of the signs, like how this shows up. And again, it's going to show up differently depending on the area in the chart and how that shows up, right? So I also am doing a series on numerology at Instagram. So I'm trying to kind of shake it up a little bit, do different things at different places so that you can see different things and learn different things. And all of my content is all on the premise of understanding yourself better. Taking those parts of you that I find the real areas people tend to be really hard on themselves for. And this is something I've been researching for a long time, and I've begun to see there are some consistent patterns about human beings. And obviously, there's differences. It doesn't mean that everybody is going to have the same ones, but I have noticed some of the biggest ones are shame, and they're ashamed of who they are, what they like. Again, this can be taught. Usually, obviously, it would be taught, but taught by like your parents or school or society or whatever. And something about what you like, you feel shame over, or the way that you are, or whatever. This causes a lot of problems because it causes like a distortion, right? It's going to be that particular area of you is going to be touchy. Anytime anyone comes near it, you're going to, fly off the handle or get upset or exposed or whatever. And the other thing that happens with this is there's judgment then, or guilt. And so you try and hide it because you don't want to be seen as vulnerable or weak or whatever, but then you're defensive every time anyone happens to go anywhere near it. And of course, at some stage, that's going to happen. It's probably going to happen at a few stages. And then this contributes to the respect a person has for themselves, or the self-worth that they feel they have or don't have. All of these kinds of things are going to come out. And so I think with numerology, human design, and astrology, you can see what you're like in that given area. That's why I'm doing the series on the traits in terms of astrology, because it's even the thing I find funny, and I've talked about this, I think in the series. I've also mentioned it when I've done TikTok lives, just in general. The thing that's fascinating about this is there are so many people who swear astrology is not real because they don't know enough about it to actually speak on whether it is or not. But it always makes me laugh when I know someone's chart, like I know their qualities and why they do certain things the way that they do, etc. They even use the key words or the traits of that sign in that area. So let me just give you an example. If you have an Aries moon, for instance, what I've noticed about Aries moons is that they're not great with regulating their emotions in general. Like, it's just not that whole fear of being seen as emotionally weak. They'd rather, again, and it depends on the lens of what house their moon sign is in, but it's that whole, I don't want to be seen as weak. So again, if they're in more of like an outward, like the first house, for instance, they might just tooth and nail argue, to sort of prove they're anything but. When the reality is that's the proof that they are, because the argument is speaking on that. The argument now is taken over. I'm angry and I'm going to show how strong I am by fighting. But maybe in like the eighth house, for instance, there could be some shame around that or some fear of betrayal. So they might just do the silent treatment and blame everybody else, right? So again, this is all more low vibration stuff and maybe immature, types of things. But again, those qualities are going to come out. So they're going to say things like, oh, that's somebody else's fault, the lack of accountability, because again, it's an immature placement. It could be that they defend. No, I didn't say that. I didn't feel that way. That didn't happen. So I guess even gaslighting. But it's this whole idea of, well, this is your fault. It's not my fault. It's somebody else's fault. I don't know whose fault it is, but it's not my fault, even though they're the one who did it. So again, you might use the key phrases of challenge, competition, adventure, risk, bravery, confidence. Those types of words might come out when it comes to how you describe your emotional state. Again, whatever aspects to different planets will create some different fluences. So again, if it's got an aspect to Mars, then this is going to be real gusto, right? If it's to like Neptune, they might be direct, but at the same time, they might also prefer to slink into fantasy or delusion. And it could be a combination of words, of escapism and boldness. Challenge, but not just escapism, but delusion, fantasy. Not facing it or feeling the pain of the collective. So again, it's all of these combinations. It's what's going to come out. In numerology, it very much depends on where the placement is. Like, where is this number? What is it in reference to who you are as a person? What location is it? Because if it's your actual birthday, it's been reduced down to that number, or it actually is, if it happens to be one of the master numbers, and of course you don't reduce it. But that's going to be how you are, again, in your ego or as a person. So this is important to make these connections because it takes who you are out of the dark. There's no longer this, I don't know, I'm unaware. And there's a power to that. There's a power to clarity. There's a power to understanding yourself. And I think that the more you understand yourself, the more comfortable you become. And you start to notice things about other people too. Not in a judgmental kind of way. It's more, you start to see a lot of things that people do today in terms of social media or whatever. Like I'll even give an example. So I go to the gym pretty regularly. And one of the things I find that's really interesting about, being at the gym is you see people, because a lot of them come, every day or whatever. So you start to kind of recognize their patterns. Now, the thing that's really interesting with this is there's sometimes random ones that come. And I find it funny because a lot of times they will just sit there and stare at their reflection. They kind of walk back and forth, and they might do a set or two maybe in like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, but the rest of the time they sit there looking at their reflection. And I find that so fascinating because it's like, you know what you look like. Like you've been looking at your face and your body for, again, anywhere from, teenage years to 20s to 30s to 40, 50 up, you've seen your face, you've seen your body. So what are you staring at? And they might, do their sort of pose or whatever, to try and look at their gains. And then, of course, might take some photos. There's some that take photos to post them online. Now, this isn't a judgment, and this isn't to shame anyone. It's simply an observation, a neutral observation. But what that tells me, for instance, you know what you look like. You should be, in theory, like comfortable with it. Why are you staring? So the only reason you'd be doing that is because in your mind, you're trying to convince yourself that you're as attractive as what you want to be. The fact that you'd post is because you want people to tell you you're attractive. So again, this is all external validation because the inside is not secure. The more secure you become on the inside. And look, there might be some varying degrees on this. I'm not saying it's a be and end all, but by and large, people who are truly confident with themselves, why would you need someone else to confirm something you already know about yourself? It seems a little redundant and a waste of time. So the only reason you would do that is because you don't actually feel that good about yourself inside. And you're seeking validation elsewhere to try and fill that gap. When the reality is, it never will. So that was just kind of an example just to show. And even, people who post a lot, and I know that probably sounds funny since I post, but to me, I would prefer not to post myself. And I certainly don't do it for attention or for validation. I do it because I have certain skills. I have certain talents from experiences I've been through, and I've learned how to help people. And with this day and age, it's a necessary, I guess, it's a necessary approach. You have to put yourself out there. You have to be comfortable to discuss these things and let people get to know you. Let people get comfortable with you. You become the product, so to speak. You become the service. You become the face. So there's no way avoiding that. And that way people can see you, like you, identify with you. And then again, they'll learn. There's plenty, because of especially the content I do, you'll learn things. And then if you really want to understand yourself on a deeper level, of course, there's the readings. And I do those on purpose so people can understand who they are. Like actually get it. And then actually get what they want in life. Like that's the whole reason behind why I do everything. I want people to have the life they want. I want them to see themselves the way that they want to see themselves, not to be driven by shame, insecurity, judgment, all the rest of these things, and to actually be the person they're supposed to be. So that's why I put myself out, for no other reason. And look, some people don't like what I say. Some of the stuff I say it can be a little confronting. But how else are you meant to become all that you can be if you don't face these dark corners? And that's what I'm more focused on. Again, I can talk about those types of aspects and how that can affect, people in their chart at another time. But I thought this would be a good, in terms of the podcast, I thought this would be kind of a good thing to explore and to expand on.